Heaven cannot contain God. Not the skies, not the stars, not even the throne itself. We build structures, we assign schedules, we look for signs. We assume that if God moves, it will announce itself. Scripture tells us something that should unsettle us, that heaven itself cannot hold him. So if heaven cannot contain God, where is he right now? Everywhere, nowhere, or moving through the world in ways too subtle to control, but too powerful to ignore. And if God does not announce his movement, the question is no longer whether he is present. The question is whether we know how to recognize him when he refuses to arrive the way we expect. And if his movement does not ask for permission, what does that mean for the way we have been watching? This is the Kingdom Questions, a place where we slow down long enough to sit with the questions Scripture invites, but comfort avoids. Scripture does not suggest this, it declares it. Heaven cannot contain God, not symbolically, not poetically, literally. The heavens are not a cage. The universe is not a boundary. Even the throne is not a home. When Solomon dedicates the temple, he admits it plainly. Heaven and the highest heaven cannot contain you. Let that settle. The very realm we associate with God's presence cannot hold him, which means heaven is not where God lives. Heaven is what God allows to exist. It is not his location, it is his domain, shaped by his authority, sustained by his will, never large enough to limit him. This is where our imagination fails. We picture God seated somewhere, occupying a position contained within a realm. Scripture refuses that image. God does not dwell in heaven the way we dwell in houses. Heaven is not a container, it is an expression, an ordered realm displaying God's rule, not the boundary of his being. And if heaven itself cannot contain God, then God is not contained anywhere at all. So here is the question we rarely slow down to face. If the highest place we can imagine is still not high enough to hold him, then where does God actually exist right now? So we tried anyway. If heaven could not contain him, maybe we could. We built temples, we raised sanctuaries, we marked holy ground and drew sacred borders. We lit fires, we recited prayers, we organized authority and hierarchy, and God passed through all of it. Kings looked for him in power, priests looked for him in ceremony, scholars looked for him in doctrine. None could hold him, none could control him. Every structure revealed its limit, every ritual exposed its weakness, every throne proved temporary. Not because these things were evil, but because they were finite. Walls cannot contain the infinite. Systems cannot command absolute authority. Language cannot trap what exists beyond it. And slowly this truth emerges. God does not resist our structures. He simply exceeds them. Which means the problem is not that God refuses to be found. The problem is that we keep looking for him where control feels possible. So here is the question that unsettles us. If God cannot be contained by heaven and cannot be held by our systems, how does he actually move through the world? And if he moves without permission, how would we even recognize it when it happens? God is not trapped. He moves, not loudly, not theatrically, but with authority that does not need to announce itself. He passes through deserts and storms, through cities and courts, through moments history only understands afterward. His movement is not always visible, but its effects are irreversible. A decision shifts, a heart turns, a door opens that never closes again. He moves in mercy that interrupts expectation, in timing that defies urgency, in outcomes no one planned for. And here is the part we struggle to accept. God does not pause for agreement. He does not negotiate his movement. He does not wait for recognition. You do not manage it. You do not steer it. You either see it or you miss it. Because this is authority beyond persuasion, not imposed by force, but established by reality itself. And when God moves, the world adjusts around him. So the question becomes personal. If God is already moving, what does it mean to witness something you cannot slow down, redirect, or control? And if his movement cannot be stopped, what does it demand from those who see it happening? No one observes God by choice. You witness him, but you do not command him. You cannot grab him. You cannot pause him. You cannot demand proof on your terms. God is not an object to be examined. He is an authority that confronts. And when his movement becomes visible, it does not ask for permission to matter. The impact is subtle, but it is seismic. One moment unfolds consequences you may never fully trace. One encounter reshapes a life without asking for explanation. One quiet shift redirects history long before anyone notices. And the most unsettling part is how little control we have over any of it. You cannot manage what God does next. You cannot predict where his movement will land. You cannot contain the outcomes once they begin. You are not his measure. You are a witness, and witnessing without control forces a decision. You can resist what you cannot command, or you can surrender to what you cannot stop. So here is the question that prepares us for the strangest turn of all. If God cannot be contained, cannot be controlled, and cannot be commanded, why would he ever choose to limit himself? And what would it mean if the uncontainable decided to come close? And then something stranger happens. The uncontainable chooses limitation, not because he must, because he wills to. God takes a body, flesh, visibility, vulnerability. He remains infinite, yet now he is near, close enough to touch, close enough to question, close enough to reject. This is not weakness, it is restraint. Limitless authority steps into human limitation without surrendering power, and in doing so, God introduces moral danger because proximity forces response. Distance allows denial. Closeness removes excuses. God does not overpower humanity, he exposes it. By choosing nearness, he reveals what the human heart does when authority refuses to dominate. The incarnation does not solve the problem of control, it intensifies it, because now the question is no longer whether God exists or moves. The question is how we respond when he's close enough to be refused. And that leads to the next tension. If God chose limitation once, why does he now choose silence? And what does it mean when absolute authority refuses to explain itself? God does not explain himself, not his movement, not his timing, not his restraint. The silence is deliberate, the pacing is deliberate, the unfolding is deliberate. Scripture does not show God defending his decisions, it shows him acting. He does not justify himself to kings. He does not clarify himself to crowds. He does not reassure those who want certainty, because explanation would suggest negotiation, and God does not negotiate authority. He moves and the world adjusts. He speaks and consequences ripple outward. He remains silent, and that silence carries weight. Not the absence of power, but the presence of restraint. This is not comfort. This is confrontation. A pressure placed on every decision, every loyalty, every life. Because when authority refuses to explain itself, what is revealed is not God's weakness, but our need for control. So the question shifts again. If God is not here to be understood, but to be encountered, what does it mean to live in a world shaped by an authority that will not ask for your approval? And if his presence presses on every choice, what does it demand from you right now? So where is God right now? Not trapped in heaven, not confined by expectation, not controlled by ritual, authority, or logic. He is uncontained, moving quietly, deliberately, without asking permission, present without announcement, near without being managed, active without explanation. The question was never whether God is present. The question is, are you paying attention? Are you noticing the movements that shape outcomes before you understand them? Are you willing to witness authority without trying to control it? Because if heaven cannot contain God, the answer is not comfort. It is awe, it is tension, it is humility, and it is closer than you think. This is the Kingdom Questions. If this stirred something in you, give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you don't miss what comes next. Drop your thoughts in the comments to continue the conversation, and share this with someone who's been wrestling with where God really is. Because some truths are not meant to be explained, they are meant to be noticed.